that whole mess with the other company.
Yeah,
That just, yeah.
that didn't work out for you.
No, it it's interesting. Like I said, I can't go into too much. So I'm also queuing something here. I can't go into too much
Right.
because there is a bunch of confidential information going on, but um, it very, very much looks like the guy is trying to set something up to woo investors into giving him money and then just keeping the money.
Oh,
So yeah, I think we think that's why he wants to have the latest technology in their app.
what's the ad about?
I can't really go into it because that would give away, other stuff.
Right, right.
But I can tell you that the guy was it like $8 million or something? He was convicted of swindling people out of in 2010.
Wow.
So yeah,
2010?
huh?
In 2010?
2010. He was sentenced to 7 years.
And he just got out?
Apparently, he's been out for a little bit
Wow.
for because of good behavior and all. Apparently, he didn't spend any time in prison hardly because he had apparently already been in prison waiting for the trial,
Oh,
and so that counted. Um, excuse me. This isn't quite as clear cut as I thought, but it's still pretty good.
well, lucky you found out because you'll be partner in crime.
What's that?
Like it, like lucky that you found out early,
Oh yeah,
or else you'll be partnering like in crime with him, right?
yeah. You got to watch that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, you were asking about the VM.
Yes.
Well, long story short, basically, when you compile Java code,
Mm-hmm.
it runs on the Java VM, no matter where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that basically an Android phone is a Linux operating system, and it's running a Java VM, and the Android code runs on the Java VM, which then runs on the Linux operating system.
Right. So there are two layers, right?
And then it runs on the hardware. Well, what's been going on is Xamarin and a bunch of the other, I can't remember which one you mentioned, but a bunch of the cross-platform solutions,
Yeah.
they all use bridges and things like that, like React Native also. Let me share this real quick. These are slides from a presentation in Germany. Yeah, that'll work. Excuse me. These are slides from a presentation in Germany. And one of the things, let me hit spotlight. Okay, can you see the red dot? I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but the top one is just showing React Native, but this is a lot of the cross-platform solutions that do this. In a nutshell, what you have over here in the red is the OEM widgets, which is it's the Android, or in iOS's case, the iOS widgets that are built in to the actual framework, like things like recycler view, text fields, all that stuff.
Right.
It draws these to the canvas, okay, to the hardware, and then you have input events which come back through the OEM widgets. And then when you're going to a cross-platform solution, they're using a bridge. Okay, and then local services, basically low-level stuff. You always have to go through something. In this case, it goes to a bridge. Then this goes to JavaScript. Now, it doesn't matter if you're writing in Java or if you're writing in Kotlin. It's still going to compile to JavaScript. Okay, it's still going to run on that JVM. And the JVM is what's costing Google an arm and an ass. So it's looking at potentially $9 billion now. is what they might be being sued for.
Well, hold on. Are they sued because they're using Java or they're using Java JVMs?
Because they're using, well, it's all Oracle's technology, and Oracle owns all of that. So I'm not sure exactly the details, but what it really comes down to is they're being sued for using something that Oracle owns, so they want to get the hell away from Oracle, period. That's the simple version. Well, the only way to do that is to get away from the JVM. And apparently they're also tied to Linux releases as well, which they're not real thrilled about. That's not costing them money, but apparently it's limiting their ability to do updates and such. So getting away from the Linux is why they are doing Fuchsia, the Fuchsia OS. But that's not why they're doing Flutter.
Right.
Hard soda, Henry's, yum.
The best.
I don't drink beer, so not really anyway. So anyway, when you're dealing with Dart, there are a couple things to know. One of the more confusing things is that does it do just-in-time compiling or ahead-of-time compiling? The answer is both, but it's only doing just-in-time for when you're developing. When you produce an app that goes to the store, that's all ahead-of-time compiled, totally. The only reason that they're doing just-in-time compiling is because just-in-time, when you're developing, is what allows them to do hot reload and hot restart. Because you change a state of it, you say, okay, redraw everything, bang. Well, if all the code had already been compiled, you couldn't do that.
Right.
But that's why you get this red thing on the left. It says slow, or on the right, it says slow mode. But you know, that's not there in the final release, because in the final release, of course, it's AOT compiled. But the big thing, if you look here, it's all self-contained. Now, platform channels is basically like the equivalent to a bridge that goes to the low-level stuff. Right here. Okay, there's really no way getting around doing some kind of bridge for that. But if you notice, it completely bypasses the Android the Android SDK, and it also bypasses the iOS, both of them. Because I don't know, have you ever heard of Skia or Skia, SKIA? They use it in Chrome for drawing to the canvas. Basically, Chrome's got its own rendering engine. And that's what Flutter's using. Well, since it's drawing directly to the canvas, and they're using their own widgets, not the widgets.
Oh, not the native widgets, right?
They're not using any UI components from Android or from Kelsey keeps messaging. They're not using any UI components from Android or from iOS.
Right.
It's actually Flutter UI components.
Gotcha.
And the thing is, people look at them and they go, oh, well, this is an Android app, and these are all the usual things I'm used to doing. No, those are Flutter UI widgets. They were designed to be pixel for pixel perfect imitations. They were also designed to imitate the acceleration, everything else when you're using them. Basically, they're designed to fool people.
Right.
Because people are comfortable with those type of widgets. So an easy way to get people to accept it is to give them something they're already comfortable with, that they're familiar with. That way they don't feel like you're dropping something new on them. But doing this allows for a lot of different things. Number one, it means that they're not using things that belong to Oracle or to Apple. They're using their own widgets, and they're drawing them directly to the canvas in binary with the Skia graphics engine.
Oh, so it's straight to binary.
Yep. And it's ARM code. When ARM, Dart ARM code right here. This is the ahead of time compiled ARM code, right in the native. That's one of the reasons that and the fact that it's going from that straight from its own binary through its own graphics engine into the canvas, all binary from start to finish. Sorry, I forgot that one. So I did the kitchen and I forgot something. But it's a lot faster. And one of the things that the German presentation I showed you before went into was the hardware is capable of so much more, but the problem is that the Android architecture is 10 years old. I mean, it's had a great run. It really has, the whole Android SDK, but it's 10 years old.
But aren't they updating it?
Yeah, oh no, everybody's still updating it, and I figure it's probably got another 5 or 6 years left in it, which show me another framework that has lasted 15 years. I mean, really, show me. That's phenomenal. I'm not knocking it at all. I'm amazed. But, you know, it's starting to run a little slower compared to Apple. Because people say their iOS devices, their iPhones run faster, cleaner, smoother. Well, when they ran Flutter on both of them, they run the same because the hardware is just as good. It's just
the SDK is a bit old.
Yeah, the SDK has been updated and updated and updated and patched and updated and patched. I mean, it needs a fresh start, but it's not going to get one. So anyway, that's a lot of what this is doing now. They're shooting for 60 FPS.
Right. So would you consider Flutter as a hybrid app then? Because it almost sounds like it is like, you know, iOS, Android, and then Flutter.
That's exactly what it is.
It's like a separate entity.
It is. But it can compile into both. Running on 3 different ways. It can compile to run on Fuchsia. It can compile to run on Android, and it can compile to run on iOS. And they've already come out with Mac desktop embedding, and they're working on Linux desktop embedding right now, and then Windows will be next, which means you'll be able to write once and publish to mobile and desktop for Mac, and then mobile for Android and desktop for Windows, and then mobile for Fuchsia and desktop for Linux, all just by writing one app. That's going to be a game changer. But yeah, they're hitting 60 FPS right now. I'm sorry, they always hit at 60 FPS. That's what it's designed for. They have hit 120. 120 FPS is nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts. If you take a look, well, this is, like I said, the difference. It's getting rid of the bridge. It's not using the OEM widgets. Everything is binary, going straight there. The only thing it's stuck doing the same stuff with is the Bluetooth, the audio, the camera sensors, all that. There's really no getting around that.
But how does Flutter communicate with hardware between, you know, iOS and Android? Because
platform channels right here. Anything that is platform specific, they have classes, I guess you would call them, classes and objects that are platform channels. And one of the times you have to deal with this sometimes is with GPS and maps. You have to write 2 different sets of code, one for each. And each one is a platform channel. It's platform specific. The vast majority of stuff that you write, you don't have to deal with that. You don't have to deal with it. But I'd say 3%, maybe 4%, you might have to overcome the differences between the 2 systems because of the way they handle the service. But, I mean, this is cute. Dart's history. They were, go replace JavaScript. And then just in time compiled only, it was like, oops. And then, no, it didn't work. Boom. Exploded. And some people will sit there and argue and say, oh, Dart's dead, Dart's this, Dart's that. It's because they never made it past this point. You know, and now it compiles to ARM, all this other happy stuff, yada, yada. So, and Dart 2.0 is out right now for a preview.
Can you only write Flutter in Dart, or can you write Flutter in Java? Or
nope, Dart. And the thing is that Dart is so easy. They actually did a. Do you ever listen to a podcast called?
CS Bootcamp or something?
No, Fragmented.
Fragmented.
Yeah, there's a podcast. There's a good Android podcast called Fragmented. They did a 2-part series on Flutter. I still haven't heard the second part. I wasn't all that impressed by their understanding of Flutter. But one of the funny things I did learn is apparently Google did an exercise, an experiment. They put something written in Dart on a computer, and they brought devs in and they said, hey, work with this, will you? I need you to do this and do this and do this. And they just started doing it. And they realized there was a couple little differences in the syntax, but they played around and it worked out just fine. And then they looked at him and they said, do you know what you were working in? And they said, well, it was some type of C or Java. No, it was Dart. The syntax is so freaking close
to
that
Java or to C?
It's C based. Let me show you some real quick here. Not this one. Okay, come on, get this out of the way. Let me pull person Dart. Are you serious? Okay. There we go. Person Dart. Here you go. Standard if-else statement. Okay. Now, I've got that's a nested if. You notice that I've got both ways going in there. So this is an actual production piece I'm doing for that piecemeal guy. Mm-hmm. But there's something that whether or not it's a fixed person, and basically what I have to do is I have to see if I'm going to give it a check mark. Well, a fixed person does not get a check mark. So the first thing I need to determine is it a fixed person? So if not fixed person, fine. So fixed person is false. Now I have to double check and see if they're selected. Mm-hmm. Okay. And selected, if it is true, then selected equals false. Otherwise, selected equals true. Set state is what tells it to go ahead and re-render everything. Basically, what you're doing here is you set some variables that the widgets all depend on and call set state to rebuild them. So what it does is it rolls back up here and it runs the build method.
Oh, so set state.
So all this stuff up here is the state. All this kind of stuff is the state. And this is a stateful widget. So, whether or not something is shown depends on, where is it? Gesture detector, checkmark icon. Oh, that's right. I moved. Well, no, here we go. Whether or not the checkmark is shown, there's a widget called an offstage. It basically means that it's rendering your object off the canvas. So it's not taking any resources. It's their solution to invisible. So if something is off-staged, if it is either a fixed, actually this is backwards. either if it is not a fixed person or if it is selected, then okay, it comes in and it gives it padding to set where it belongs. And what it is actually an icon. It's an icon check mark. So if you look at it backwards, it's here's the icon. This is the padding that it was set in with edge insets only. And whether or not it's on or off stage was determined back here. So do I want this thing on or off stage? If I want it on stage, then I set up the padding. And this is what kind of padding it's got. And now render it within that padding.
How do you design your UIs? Because you showed us.
You're looking at it. You're looking at it.
But you showed us like this other fancy Flutter UI that's got like the menus and cool stuff.
Oh yeah, well that's massively psycho advanced. I could show you that. I can show you the code for that one. I don't even understand it. I have the code for it. It's one of the things that I don't like is when they put out examples. A lot of times they're just examples, so you don't really. There's no. There is no
rhyme or reason.
There's no explanation. There's just no explanation at all. So I'm trying to figure out what's what here. Animation demo, contacts, pesto, shrine.
Wait, so do you build your UI using the code, or is there like a...
Everything's Dart.
Okay. So you don't have like a graphical interface where you can just drag and drop?
No, but someone has invented one, and they're working on it. So this right here is a bunch of the code for that. Okay, I only opened the file, so it's not. What I ought to do is open the entire thing. There we go. Just open it up in this window. I'll show you that in a minute too. There's a guy that has designed something. It's in its early stages, but it's looking very promising. Okay, let's see here. Now this is the other stuff that we were just looking at a moment ago. Let's just say this is supposedly the contacts thing from before. Oh, great. Yeah, don't mess with me like this. I hate it when you do this nonsense. Sometimes when you do an import or something, you have to let autocomplete do it before it takes properly. That's why everything was in red. I don't do red squiggles.
Oh yeah, me too.
That's what my error looks like.
That's better actually.
It's like, yeah, it's so annoying you can't possibly miss it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did all this to be very easy on my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the UI for that, some of that fancy stuff. Here's a container, which has padding, edge insets, decorations, a box decoration, which you can put images and stuff in. Here's a border for the decoration, divider, theme data divider cover. I'm not sure. I haven't even gotten into that. Default text style, changing the theme. What the hell is a safe area? Must be a custom thing that they made. Rows, containers, symmetrical padding.
Everything looks so nested together.
Yep, it is absolutely all nested. It's totally nested. It's nested until it's re-nested and re-nested again, and will make you insane.
Yeah. It's quite different from the codes that I used to see.
I mean, going back to the first one that I was showing you here a minute ago, you can go away now. One of the things, like if you look at this, I built a class. Where the hell are you at? Or did I already absorb it all in? I didn't absorb all that in, did I? Oh, that's person, not people bar. I'm looking for, no, that's right, that's people bar. Well, yeah, here's one way to do it. This is the actual UI that you see when you run this thing. All right.
Okay, run it.
I'm running it right now. What you're seeing here, here's an expanded with an empty container and a flex of 1. Now what this is basically a gravity setting, sort of. What that expanded does is it tries to take over any empty space. If you have more than one expanded, which we do, then it looks at what the flex number is. If the flex numbers are even, then it will try to split the space 50-50.
Oh.
So what this is I have one expanded on the left and one expanded on the right and all my other stuff in the middle. And what that does is it centers my crap. Okay, so let's say I comment that out and we redo it. Hey, let's switch you. Something's a little freakish. Okay, full restart you then. Okay, bang. See how it's still centered?
Mm-hmm.
That's because of these expandeds. Now, an interesting thing, what if one expanded was double the strength of the other? Okay, now the one on the right is double the strength of the one on the left.
It would be 2 to 1, right? 2 to 1.
Yep, 2 to 1 ratio. Boom. You can see that the leftover space has been divided into thirds. And the reason it's divided into thirds is 2 plus 1 equals 3. The left one gets one of them and the right one gets 2 of them. Now, what happens if we divide it into quarters and give it each side 2 quarters? We're even again. It's divided into quarters now. So, excuse me, that I'm working on the flash, on making something flash, and that flash right there is.
So the screen that I'm seeing right now, if you were to deploy it on the iOS framework or the iOS platform, will I still see the same thing?
It should look identical. It should look no different. I need to find flash, false, height, that's fine.
Man, that's awesome.
What the hell? My flash should have been down here. All right, where did I put my flash, damn it? Flash, this height, that's great. But flash is an image. There we go. Oh, here it is. Here's the whole thing. Flash is its own class. So, in fact, Flash is its own entire file. So Flash extends a stateful widget, which means it has a state. The state is going to be whether it's going to be animated. So the state's going to be changing a lot. What in the world do you keep? It keeps hitting my insert key for some reason. It's acting like I hit my insert key.
Right.
So anyway, just cleaning this up a little bit here, but it's pretty standard constructors and such. I mean, you declare the Flash state class. It's got a Boolean. It's got a height. Okay, here's your constructor. you call flash state as a function.
Why are there dots?
Huh?
Why
These
are there two dots?
these
Yeah.
spaces are set to show. It's showing white space.
Oh, okay.
The reason I did this is that this file, pubspec YAML, is kind of the equivalent of working with Android Manifest XML. Only this son of a sucker is extremely sensitive. One space out of place, just one, and the whole file will blow it. That right there will crash the entire app.
Wow.
So it's something to do with the YAML files. I don't know. They make me crazy. So yeah. So I ended up having to turn them on, and actually I just kind of prefer having them on now.
Yeah.
Really, all this is just white space. But anyway, this is a standard constructor. You know, nothing unusual.
Yeah.
This is an opacity level change. It tells you the opacity level equals, if it's at 0, make it 1. If it's at 1, make it 0. I can't remember. There's somewhere right in here. Oh, yeah, here it is. Set the duration for the animation to 3. So all that happiness. And what we have right here, what you're seeing with that whitish stuff, is that I've got the opacity level set to 0.3. YAML did not change. It thinks that I changed something in pubspec YAML. Unallowed additional. Are you freaking kidding me? It's saying something actually did change in YAML and now it's messed up.
Great.
Oh, yeah, well, that will do it all right.
Well, it's quite sensitive.
Well, it was missing the letter A.
Oh.
There we go. That's what I was looking for. So now I've got the flash opacity turned down to 0. Whereas you can see when I make it flash, I'm probably going to crank it up to like 0.25. You know, and then it'll go up that much, and then it'll zip back down to 0 again real quick. But a lot of this, what's working with state is when you click it. What you doing to me here, Hoss? Okay, apparently my screwing with something else broke something else. Interesting. These check marks were all working earlier today.
So you get paid for like building these UIs for that guy, and you get paid?
Yeah, when it's done.
That's a pretty sweet deal. Like you get to learn and get paid at the same time.
That's it. I mean, you don't get paid a whole lot for the hours you put in, but I mean, I'd be putting the hours in anyway, trying to learn.
Yeah. Now, is he like a Flutter professional or?
He knows enough to know what's up. He's an aeronautical engineer who also used to do software engineering. He's down in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Oh, he's down in Brazil?
Oh yeah, dude, Flutter is like the most international thing I've ever seen. Totally crazy. I know one guy in California, one guy in Oregon, one guy in Washington. Other than that, sorry, everybody I know is Simon's in the UK, Bram is in Belgium, Gunther is in Austria, Remy is in France, Brian Egan is in Germany. I think there's one other guy in Germany. Then Ahmed is in Alexandria, Egypt. I mean, you want to talk about just shotgun all over the world. That's the Flutter crew. It's totally crazy. The sun is always shining in Flutterland somewhere because there's a whole bunch of Pacific Rim and Russians that I never even see. Because when I'm logging on, it's about noon in Austria. So most of the Russian guys are already out partying at night. By that time, the Pacific Rim people are in the middle of the night. They're sleeping. Yeah. So, but yeah. So let me see here. Let me pull up Chrome. I'm not a huge fan of Chrome, but.
Are you running Linux?
Yeah. I thought you knew that.
Yeah, I was trying to make sure. Because you said something about using Linux for something. Like for your previous job or something?
No, I've always kind of used it.
Oh.
Okay, let me. Okay, so are you about done? This thing here. Okay, so as you can see, my one bookmark. Here's your Flutter code. Here's your builder. So build away. Let's say we want to start out with a scaffold. Okay, we now have a scaffold. Body, new scaffold. Right there. Mm-hmm. So we'll start out, let's do a, because of the way the bounds are set, we can't just throw a column in there. It needs to have something that restricts its height. So, hey. There we go. Container. Set your cross-axis alignment. You know, set your margins. Some pretty interesting stuff. I don't even, your padding, your alignment, any text that's in there. So now we'll throw on a column. Here's your column.
Why do you need a container to put your column in?
Because what ends up happening with a column and rows, they will try to fill whatever space you give them. And the thing is that the scaffold does not have set dimensions. It can have overflow off of the page.
Gotcha.
So if you try to throw down a column and you don't give it a vertical constraint, it comes out with an error saying that its vertical dimension is infinity because its vertical constraint is unbound.
Oh, that's why you have a container to contain.
Container, yep, that can basically literally to contain it.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the reason that it's named that, but hey, it works, right? So, you know, then we've got other widgets we can put in here. Image assets, raised button.
So you can just build your UI and then you just copy and paste your code.
Pretty much. Well, that's the idea. We don't know quite how well this works yet. But, you know, we'll say, okay, so now there's a center. On the center, maybe we'll put an image. So the image is now centered. Okay, now I have another container and I want to put, let's say I want to put a card down here. Okay, now the card can have, I don't know what the hell the card can have. I guess the card can have text. Can it have text? How does this work? I've never even really worked with this, so. Okay, oh, here you go. Color. Set the background color to whatever you want. And if you notice, the card is what they call elevated. I don't know if you can see this right here, the drop shadow.
Yeah, the drop shadow. See it? Saw it.
So, I mean, yeah, different widgets, text. That's where you get to change the text.
Well, you know, in your it says on the code, it says new card.
Yes.
Child. Can you have multiple childs then?
You already do for certain items. Only certain items can have multiple. Right here, children. See that? A column can have children. The card can only have one child. But if I want to put multiple things on the card, I can. All you have to do is you can turn around and put a grid, or in this case, let's say I want to put different things on here. So I want to put text on the left, okay, and then I want to put an image on the right, okay, and now maybe I need some type of, actually before I do that, then maybe I need a container or a spacer or a expanded. There we go. We'll put an expanded right there. You son of a bitch. Put the expanded the other way. Oh, it made the okay, I see.
How easy?
It's a little bit difficult to get it to understand what I want.
How easy to do async operations?
Piece of cake. Total. Okay, that's what I was trying for. That's what I was going for before. See, here's the text. Here's the expanded. The expanded is taking up the extra space. Now, if this works the way I believe it will, see what happens to the expanded as the available space disappears?
Yeah.
That's that spacer I was showing you that I put on either side. And here's all your code. All already nested for you. See, it looks complicated, but it's really not. And once you begin to learn to read it, this is nothing.
Right.
It takes a good week or so to get used to it. But once you get used to this, I mean, the other stuff that we're doing in there is that we were doing in Android. I mean, God, you would have to write so much more code to do this.
Right, but all I'm seeing right now is it's UI. But what about
Right.
like, async operations? Like, does it have?
Let me pull up.
Also, does it have like things like interfaces, like how Java has interfaces?
Well, I mean, that would be part of Dart.
For example, like if you want to know if a user has, scrolled your view list or something, in Java you would have to implement an interface, right, and override that.
Well, okay, now an interface is an interface to a class, whatever that class may be.
Right, but I'm saying like if you want your UI to communicate back to you, for example, like if you want to know if a user has, scrolled your UI, your list view or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would be a good question for the getter. I'm sure there are ways to do it. I've never tried to do it, so I don't know. Let me.
Right, interface.
Now this is two classes right here. You were talking about doing some JSON, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, let me go ahead and close this out. So this right here, God, I've actually got two separate ways I'm doing this in here too. That right there is what creates the list tiles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this right here, this whole setup is your recycler view. And this is what goes and fetches your, this is what I showed you earlier today.
Yeah.
But everything in green obviously is a comment. So, and I can't even remember exactly what this, oh, okay, that's what this does. It goes out and it fetches, let me grab this real quick. Not hardly. That is not what I had highlighted. Not hardly, man. That was the URL for updating Flutter. Yeah. Seriously? What is with you, man?
Try doing the right click.
I don't. Why does it keep doing that with the insert key now? Ever since I upgraded, it's been doing that. It's making me batty. There we go. This is the data it's going to grab. Right here. This is the JSON data. So it's just test JSON data. That's all it is. But that way you know what the end result is going to be. But all this really does is it goes out, it declares a future.
Okay? Yeah, like the future stuff. Because I read some articles about promises and futures. Man, yep. They are so hard to understand.
No, okay. Futures are actually not that bad. There's a couple other things that drive me nuts, but here's the easy way to understand it. You're declaring a string called getData. Okay? What is that string going to be? We don't know yet. Now, the difference, I'm not quite sure why they do it with a future versus just instantiating it later. But apparently there's a difference in the way things run. But this basically says, we're going to fill this in later, just wait a minute. So the string called getData is going to be filled in at a future time. So it's a future string called getData. And it is asynchronous. So now just like in Android, we're jumping to another thread. So now we have a variable called response, and it's going to be the result of an HTTP GET call. But the thing is, we have to wait for it. So there's going to be a future string called getData. We're going to do this asynchronously. Our variable response, we're going to have to wait for the results of an HTTP GET. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Should be pretty, it's a URL builder.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love this so much better than using a URL builder. Oh, you remember everything that went into a URL builder?
Yeah, it's so convoluted. And it doesn't make sense, right? Like,
that's why the Android framework makes me nuts. The headers says what type of data are we going to accept. Okay, because if there's different types of, if there's other data here, if there's MIME data, if there's this, that, or the other, ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a security thing in case somebody tries to feed something else into your system. Now data, we will decode the JSON to the response that we get, whatever response that we got, and we're looking for the body in the response. Now what we're looking for is print data index of 1. What we're looking for is what's called the title. And when done, return success. Well, here's the title. And user ID 1. So over here, all this is we have a scaffold, and then we build a list view. Inside of the list view, we have a column, and then we put a list tile inside of the column. In that we have text on the leading edge, text on the title, text on the subtitle, and then there's new text underneath, which I don't know why we have a space there. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've done this one.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what we get when we run it. But you can do so much with so little code in Flutter. You spend the vast majority of your time trying to figure out what you want to use, and then 10 seconds typing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then go back to trying to figure out what you want to use next. And I went back into the course for Udacity, and I'm typing these things in Java that are this long.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. That's what I said. It makes my eyes bleed. You get used to this. Everything fits in half of a screen width.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first build, which does take a while. Okay, so now for each and every one, it has filled a new list tile. So
when you are ready to
well, now when you look at this, you see this is post 1 right here. You got that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see what post 2 is. Okay. ¿Qué es este? ¿Qué es este? Okay, so it's right there. Mm-hmm. So what the program did was it didn't ask for a specific one. It just went and grabbed all this.
Oh.
Sorry about that. I had it set to pull a specific entry, and I shouldn't have done that. So now this thing has gone and just grabbed the entire list. And for each individual index in the data, it's creating a brand new file.
Right.
I'm sorry, a brand new list item. This right here, what we just did, you know what this is.
Yeah, recycle view, right?
You got it. We just did JSON. We just did an HTTP GET and JSON decode, okay, and a recycler view in that much code.
Yeah, less than 50 lines of code, maybe.
Yeah, well, yeah. When you take all of the commenting out of both of them, probably 50 lines. So yeah.
Sweet, that's cool.
That's why I'm just like, I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's easier to use.
Yeah.
It's more future proof.
Yep.
But Android Java is not dead by a long shot, man. People are going to be working in that for 5 or 6 years. So no, that course is not a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because
are you well, so are you do you want to go to the next phase if you got selected, or
if I get selected, I'll do it.
Okay.
I don't want to waste it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm having to pour so much effort into this right now. This is where I'm spending all my time.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, because it's where I'm going to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
There are right now, you see that? Well, no. You see this right here? Can you see my cursor?
Yeah. No.
Do you see the box flashing on the right?
Oh yeah.
2,817 people. You know how many of those are actually active?
No.
150. That's about it. You know how many know this well enough to work in it right now? 50. So I don't think there's a single individual who's here who's unemployed. Most of them are still employed doing things that they were doing before they started this.
Right.
But there are a number of people who are working doing Flutter. Excuse me, goodness. But yeah, and speaking of around the world, I forgot about Victor. Man, go to sleep, dude. Victor is in Lebanon.
And what's the time there?
Hell if I know, but it's got to be at least 6-7 hours.
He's staying up all
It's at
night.
least 2 or 3 in the morning. It's got to be 2 or 3 in the morning.
Sweet. Man, I learned a lot.
But yeah, this is, if you really want to learn and ask people questions.
Yes, send me that link. I want to check it out.
There you go. I didn't even realize he figured out a way to do an emote with fangs.
Oh, that's smart.
Bad as Simon. Jesus Christ.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Simon's in the UK, and he's up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning for Britain.
Oh
wow. I remember one time Victor and I were working on something, and he told me he was in Lebanon. I was like, "Oh my God, man, you need to go to bed." And he's like, "No, I've got a flight in 4 hours." It's like, what?
Better to stay awake.
But yeah, I mean, it's a fun crew. It is. Just about everybody who's active knows everybody else. And one of the nice things about it is we're keeping each other employed. That's basically like the agreement. It's anybody who has a problem with what they're working on, we all ask here. And it's pretty much unsaid that most of the time the things you're asking about is something somebody's going to pay you for. So if I help you out with a project, I'm not going to be insulted if you turn around and take what I helped you with and go get paid, because that's the assumption. But the other assumption too is, like, you know, if you hear about a job and you know I need a job. So, but yeah, that's in fact, the guy that made the tutorial that I showed you about JSON, and the guy who I told you about,
the tutorials.
Yeah, let me shoot real quick. Man, come on, nose. Channels. Man, I've got so many silly I have got so many bookmarks, it's insane. That's Bram. He's the one that hooked me up with the other thing. Okay, these are all channel announcements, aren't they?
Yeah.
Makes me crazy because people will sit there and talk to me in a thread, and I won't be able to figure out where the thread was.
Yeah, it gets messed up.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not ignoring people. It's just I can't freaking find. I got the message. I'm not wanted here. Good night, cruel world. You suck, Victor. I just got the alert for that. The notice. No, not package. Damn it. But yeah, it's a fun crew, and there's if anybody knows the answer to your question, they're always trying to help you out.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. And like I said, we all keep our eyes open for employment opportunities, and they're starting to come in.
Mm-hmm.
They really are, because the interest is out there now. You go on Medium and just do a search for Flutter, and you'll see that the articles that have been written in the past 3 months are just. I mean, it's like the number of articles being written in the past 3 months has just gone
Exponential.
It's crazy. To give you an idea, I joined this thing. There's 2,800 people here now. When I joined, I was 1,340 maybe. That was in like November.
Mm-hmm.
It was still 1,700 or so at the beginning of February.
Mm-hmm.
We picked up 1,100 people in 6 weeks.
Shit, really? Damn.
Yeah. The interest is, yeah. Let's put it this way: I'm more than 50% now. I'm in the older veteran core, and I started in November. So, yep, it's nuts.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, but yeah, man. I mean, like I said, it's not a race. It's not a race at all. Take your time, learn at your own pace. If you've got other things going on that are paying you, then by all means do them.
Yeah.
That's where, keeping food on the table is the priority.
Yep.
But just position yourself, and within a year or so, when there's serious demand for people who know Flutter,
mm-hmm.
you'll still be in position. And you don't have to be a Flutter wizard in order to get hired right now, and it probably will stay that way for a good year.
Right.
Anybody who knows their ass from a hole in the ground with this SDK is going to be able to get a job.
Do you know how much Flutter developer get paid? Like, is it?
It's going to be the same or a little more. And the reason I say maybe a little bit more is because if you have a team of 5 people for iOS and a team for 5 people for Android, you can do that same amount of work with 5 people on Flutter. So the product, you're just worth more. But again, you're only worth more to companies that are trying to produce on both. If a company's only interested in producing on one or the other, they're not going to care.
Mm-hmm.
They might not even bother. I mean, they might slowly transition, but they're not going to be in any hurry. But it's the companies that are looking to put out for both devices. They're going to be the big ones. And another possibility too that I'm looking into is going to be just going and doing seminars. And companies will pay damn good money for you to go in and give a 3-day workshop in order to bootstrap their teams.
Right.
So.
But you got to get your name out there first.
Part of what I'm doing here.
Know you.
mean, believe me, the people at Google know who I am. Sometimes that might not be a good thing, but they know who I am anyway.
That's a foot in the door already. If you want to work for Google, like, hey.
Yeah, I doubt I don't have the skill set for that, but the fact is that
well, I mean,
Gunther got this last contract that he's on. This guy Gunther, he got his last contract because he was able to introduce the owner of the company to some people at Google. Just because he was able to make the introduction. Okay, and I can do that already. So if somebody needs hooked up, that's the easy part. Training isn't too bad either, training people to do stuff, but there are also little things here and there that have not been worked out in Flutter yet. So sometimes you run into them. Sometimes you're trying to learn the new technology. Sometimes you're the one who's halfway writing it because there's nobody else who knows how to do it.
Right.
Okay. Well, why do I have so many windows open?
Sweet. All right, I better go. My wife's waiting for me. But
all right.
yeah,
not a problem, man.
Thanks for all the stuff. So good.
All right. Yeah, I'll be looking for you in the getter. Damn it.
Yep. All right. Signing out.
Take care.